A pleasant good morning to everyone. I welcome you all at the Pegasa Astronomical Observatory. Today, April 27, 2022, we're going to showcase the four planets, namely the planet Saturn, Mars, Venus, and Jupiter, and later on, the waning crescent moon. This activity is Pegasa's contribution in the Global Astronomy Month celebration. This is an astronomical event known as the conjunction of planets or alignment of planets, as being often called by the media. Inspired by the 100 hours of astronomy, this annual offshoot began upon the inception of Astronomers Without Borders, remains one of its flagship programs. Global Astronomy Month 2022 Festival fills the entire month of April with exciting programs for astronomy enthusiasts worldwide. Global Astronomy Month, in its 13th year, is organized by Astronomers Without Borders and is the world's largest annual global celebration of astronomy. Each GAM offers new cosmic ideas and opportunities, and GAM 2022 is no exception, bringing night sky enthusiasts together worldwide to celebrate Astronomers Without Borders motto, One People, One Sky. The first planet to be discussed today, as shown in our screen, directed from the 45 centimeter Goto reflecting telescope, is the planet Saturn. Planet Saturn is the sixth major planet from the Sun and the second largest planet in the solar system, having a diameter of 120,536 kilometers and has an average distance of 9.54 astronomical unit, or nearly 1.427 billion kilometers from the Sun and 1.28 billion kilometers away from the planet Earth. The planet Saturn rotates on its axis every 10 hours 39 minutes and revolves around the Sun in 29.42 years. The most striking feature of this planet system, and it is the least dense planet in the solar system. Its density is very less than that of the density of water. It means that if you could find a body of water that could feed Saturn, this planet will definitely float. Saturn has at least 82 known satellites, and maybe more, but only 53 have names. The planet has recently gained the title of King of the Moons, since now 82 moons have been confirmed. Before this, it was Jupiter who was the king. The largest of these satellites being the moon Titan, which happens to be the second largest satellite in the solar system and is a bit bigger than the planet Mercury. How does the planet Saturn compare to Earth? The equatorial diameter of Saturn is 120,536 kilometers, compared to Earth of 12,742 kilometers. That's about 9.5 times bigger than the diameter of the Earth. The surface area of Saturn is 83 times the area of Earth, and the volume is 764 times the volume of Earth. In other words, you could fit 764 planets the size of Earth inside Saturn. The mass of Saturn is 95 times the mass of the Earth. However, Saturn's gravity is only 1.08 times the gravity on Earth, because Saturn is such a large planet. If you weigh 68 kilograms on Earth, you will weigh 72.3 kilograms on Saturn. Saturn spins incredibly fast. One day on the planet only takes about 10 hours. That speed also causes the planet to flatten slightly, so it's not round like most other celestial bodies in our solar system. Saturn's rings might date back to the solar system's origins some 4.5 billion years ago, or they might be a lot younger. Some astronomers theorize that the planet got its rings when Saturn's gravity ripped apart a massive ice moon, we're not sure where the rings came from. Saturn is the last planet you can spot with the naked eye. You'll need a telescope or an incredible zoom lens to see its iconic rings. But you can see the planets glow at night without the aid of anything. Life as we know it couldn't survive on Saturn, but we might find it somewhere else. Saturn's moon Enceladus might provide the right conditions for life to survive outside our home planet. Jupiter and Saturn are both massive gas giants. Together, they make up 92% of the planetary mass in our solar system. If you add the other two gas giants, Neptune and Uranus, you've got 99.5% of the solar system's planetary mass. The four inner planets make up barely 0.5%. Saturn might not have a surface, but it does have a rocky core that reaches incredible temperatures. The molten metal at the core can reach temperatures of more than 15,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hotter than the sun's surface. Saturn's atmosphere and incredibly fast rotation allow for the creation of some of the fastest winds in the solar system. In the upper atmosphere, Saturn's winds can reach 1,800 kilometers per hour. For comparison, the Atlantic Ocean's strongest hurricane only generated winds that move at about 300 kilometers per hour. Someone is asking, can we live in Saturn? The answer is no. We cannot live on Saturn because the temperature in Saturn is negative 185 degrees Celsius. That is because Saturn is the sixth planet from the Sun and Earth is the third planet from the Sun, so Earth is much warmer than Saturn, plus the fact that there is a little presence of oxygen and its atmosphere composed mainly of hydrogen and helium. Saturn isn't the only planet to have rings, but it definitely has most magnificent ones. Saturn's lovely set of 7 main rings, with the spaces between them, are made up of clusters of tiny ringlets that surround the planet. They're comprised of ice and rock fragments. At present, it has more than 30 ring systems around it. Like Jupiter, it is a gas giant, primarily made up of hydrogen and helium in its thick atmosphere. Galileo Galilei was the first to see Saturn's rings in 1610. Although from his telescope, the rings look more like handles or arms. In 1655, Dutch astronomer Christian Huygens, who had a more powerful telescope at that time, later proposed that Saturn had a thin, flat ring. The first spacecraft to reach planet Saturn was Pioneer 11 in 1979, flying within 13,700 miles of the ringed planet. Images from the spacecraft allowed astronomers to discover 2 of the planet's outer rings, as well as the presence of a strong magnetic field. Then we had flybys from NASA's twin Voyagers 1 and 2 in 1980 and 1981. The Voyager spacecraft helped astronomers discover that the planet's rings are made up of thinner ringlets. The craft also sent back data that led to the discovery of 3 of Saturn's moons. Most recently, we've also had the Cassini-Huygens mission that orbited Saturn from 2004 to 2017 before burning up in the giant's atmosphere. While there are no future missions planned for Saturn, scientists have proposed missions to probe the icy moon Enceladus or Titan. In 2019, NASA announced there are plans to launch the rotorcraft lander Dragonfly in 2026, and which will arrive on Titan in 2034. Dragonfly will search for the chemical building block for life on Titan, using its many onboard instruments, including a mass spectrometer. Some trivia about planet Saturn. Did you know that the day name Saturday originates from the Roman god Saturn and can be recognized from Latin, where the day is called Dies Saturni. Latest news on Saturn's rings. Scientists believe that Saturn will lose its rings in about 100 million years. The rings are pulled into Saturn by the planet's gravity as a dusty rain of ice. The next planet that we're going to view is the planet Mars. At this point, my colleague Mr. Salvador Cremit will operate the telescope controller to focus on planet Mars. So just bear with us because in just a little while, we're going to show you planet Mars. Mars is the fourth planet from the Sun. It has a diameter of 6,746 kilometers and has an average distance of 229 million kilometers from the Sun. It takes around 13 minutes for sunlight to reach Mars. The greatest distance from Earth is 401 million kilometers, while the shortest distance is 54.6 million kilometers, with an average distance of 225 million kilometers. Mars is a frigid desert world. On Mars, the typical temperature is roughly minus 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is much below freezing point. It is half the size of Earth. Mars is sometimes called the red planet. It's red because of rusty iron in the ground. Because of its reddish hue, Mars may be seen with the naked eye from the surface of the Earth at night. The size and brightness of the planet appear to change depending on its distance from the Earth. It is also classified as a terrestrial planet like Venus. It has a very thin atmosphere made of carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and argon. Because Mars has a low air pressure, liquid water cannot remain on its surface for long periods of time. Although its atmosphere is active, its surface network in its volcanoes are dead. The amount of land surface available on Mars is almost equal to that available on the Earth. One day on Mars lasts 24.6 hours. It is just a little longer than a day on Earth, while 1 year on Mars is 687 Earth days. It is almost twice as long as 1 year on Earth. Because the surface gravity on Mars is only roughly 38% that of Earth. If you weigh 100 pounds on Earth, you would only weigh 38 pounds on Mars. Mars is named after the Roman god of war. The planet Mars was named after the Greek deity of war Ares, and the Romans followed suit, linking the planet's blood red color with Mars, their own god of war. Mars denotes masculinity, youth, and is employed as a symbol for the male gender in several civilizations. Other ancient societies focus on color as well. Chinese astronomers referred to as the fire star, while Egyptian priests referred to it as Herdesher or the red one. Clouds, winds, roughly 24-hour day, seasonal weather patterns, polar ice caps, volcanoes, canyons, and other familiar phenomena exist on Mars, just as they do on Earth. There are fascinating hints that Mars was much more Earth-like than it is now, with a denser, warmer atmosphere and considerably more water, rivers, lakes, flood channels, and maybe oceans, billions of years ago. Mars has two polar ice caps that are permanently frozen. During the winter, the poles are completely dark, resulting in the deposition of 25 to 30 degrees of the atmosphere as carbon dioxide dry ice slabs. On Mars, there are also indications of ancient floods, but water now largely exists in the form of frozen mud and thin clouds. There is evidence of liquid salty water in the soil on several Martian mountains. The tallest mountain in the solar system is found on Mars. Olympus Mons is a shield volcano with a height of 21 kilometers and a diameter of 600 kilometers. Despite the fact that it formed over billions of years, evidence from volcanic lava flows is so recent that many scientists believe it is currently active. When the wind blows, dust storms can occur on Mars. These dust storms can be massive, covering the entire planet's surface. Surprisingly, these dust storms may sometimes be seen from Earth using telescopes. Dust storms can be exceedingly powerful. They can last for months on Mars' surface, and they are most likely to occur as the planet approaches the Sun. Mars has two moons. Their names are Phobos and Deimos. Astronomer Asaph Hall discovered them in 1877 and called them after the Latin words fear and panic. These moons are believed to be captured asteroids and are among the solar system's tiniest natural satellites. With Earth and Jupiter as Mars' neighboring planets, the gas giant's massive mass causes some changes in Mars' orbit. Solar conjunction is the term used to describe the coming of sun between the Earth and Mars. When this happens, the communication between spacecraft on Mars and the Earth drastically reduces. Mars is one of our solar system's most explored bodies, and it's the only place where we dispatch rovers to examine the alien surface. Scientists want to discover if there were ever any life organisms on Mars. They also want to discover if Mars is currently or in the future capable of supporting life. The availability of water on Mars is seen as a key problem, since life as we know it cannot exist without it. If microscopic life forms ever did emerge on Mars, there's still a potential that they may survive in the hidden aqueous niches, although a slim one. Now for a quick history on the observation of the red planet. Mars has been known since ancient times because it can be seen without advanced telescopes. Mars has been documented for at least 4,000 years due to its brightness and proximity to Earth, making it impossible to attribute its discovery to anybody. Galileo Galilei, however, was the first to observe Mars with a telescope in 1610. Several missions have visited Mars, and Mars is the only planet we have sent rovers to. They drive around Mars, taking pictures and measurements. They are named Perseverance, Curiosity, Twin Rovers Spirit and Opportunity, and Sojourner. The Perseverance rover, NASA's largest and most advanced spacecraft to date, arrived on Mars on February. NASA is currently studying the surface of Mars using two rovers, one lander named InSight and one helicopter named Ingenuity. The Ingenuity helicopter was mounted to Perseverance belly and flew to Mars. Three NASA orbiters, the 2001 Mars Odyssey, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, and MAVEN, are among international fleet of 8 orbiters examining the red planet from above. These robotic explorers have discovered plenty of evidence that Mars was significantly wetter and warmer billions of years ago with a thicker atmosphere. After viewing the planet Mars, we will now shift to another planet, and this time the planet Venus. Together with planet Jupiter and the waning crescent moon, they are in conjunction, which serves as the highlight of today's astronomical event. Without the aid of the telescope, these three objects form a triangle shape. Mr. Salvador Kirimit will again do the honor of operating the telescope to focus on the planet Venus. Please bear with us as we focus the telescope, the planet Venus. In just a few minutes, planet Venus will be shown on our screen. Venus, while not being the closest planet to the Sun, is the hottest. Venus reflects 70% of the sunlight it receives, which explains its brilliant appearance. It has a dense atmosphere full of carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, and sulfuric acid clouds. Venus is kept pleasantly warm by the gas, yellowish clouds of sulfuric acid, which retains heat and cause a greenhouse effect. In fact, it's so hot on Venus that metals like lead would melt into puddles. On Venus, the surface temperature is around 900 degrees Fahrenheit, which is hot enough to melt lead. Because of Venus' sluggish rotation, temperature variations are modest during the day and night. At its surface, Venus possesses crushing air pressure, more than 90 times that of Earth, similar to the pressure found a mile beneath the ocean on Earth. The surface is a rusty tint with thousands of enormous volcanoes and strongly crushed mountains. Venus appears to be a highly active planet. Venus, in fact, contains the most volcanoes of any planet in the solar system. Many of these, however, are dormant, though scientists believe that some volcanoes may still be active. Venus has a radius of 6,051 kilometers, or 3,760 miles, and a diameter of 12,104 kilometers, or 7,521 miles, slightly smaller than Earth. At a distance of 108.2 million kilometers, or 67.24 miles, or zero point 0.7 astronomical unit, Venus is the second nearest planet to the Sun, receiving the Sun's light in 6 minutes. When the planets catch up to one another, it comes closest to Earth once every 584 days. It can reach as close to Earth as 25 million miles on average. Venus' entire atmosphere is engulfed in a continual storm. Hurricanes are common here, and clouds travel across the globe in 4 days, give or take. There are thunderstorms and lightning, very strong ones. At the altitude at the border of the higher clouds, the wind on Venus blows at a steady speed of around 225 miles per hour. Clouds move 60 times faster than the locations of the equator beneath them. The Earth's fastest clouds travel 5 to 10 times slower than the equator points underneath them. The size of Venus is comparable to that of Earth. The Earth is slightly larger. It is also classified as a terrestrial planet, having a compact and rocky surface like the Earth. Because of their comparable masses, sizes, and densities, as well as their similar relative positions in the solar system, Venus has been dubbed Earth's twin. Venus has the roundest orbit of any planet in the solar system, which is an intriguing statistic to know. Because of the dense clouds that always cover the planet's skies, visitors will be unable to view the Sun or the Earth if they visit. Venus has a nearly perfect sphere form, which means that the sizes of its equatorial and polar poles are nearly identical. Since Venus is the brightest object in the sky after the Moon and the Sun, the ancient Greeks dubbed it Aphrodite, after the Roman goddess of beauty and love, and the only planet to be named after a female figure. The morning star and the evening star are two names for Venus. Venus was regarded to be two bodies by ancient civilizations. These were called Phosphorus and Hesperus by the Greeks, and Lucifer and Vespers by the Romans. When Venus' orbit around the Sun passes Earth's, it shifts from visible after sunset to visible before sunrise. Venus is unique in that it rotates in the opposite direction as the Earth and the most other planet, and it rotates at a snail's slow pace. It takes around 243 Earth days to complete a single rotation. Because it's so close to the Sun, a year goes by fast. Venus takes 225 Earth days to complete one orbit around the Sun. A day on Venus is therefore somewhat longer than a year on Venus. One day on Venus is not the same as one on Earth because the day and year lengths are comparable. The Sun only rises and sets once a day here on Earth. The Sun, on the other hand, rises every 117 Earth days on Venus. That means the Sun rises twice a year on Venus, despite the fact that it is still the same day. The Sun rises in the west and sets in the east because Venus revolves backwards. Venus, like Mercury, is a planet without moons. Being the second planet from the Sun, Mercury and Earth are Venus's neighboring planets. Now for a quick history of the observation of the most brilliant planet in the sky. Venus has been known since ancient times because it can be seen easily without a telescope. Galileo observed Venus using a telescope and discovered that it had lunar-like phases. This supported Copernican views that planets orbited the Sun rather than the other way around, as previously thought. Several spacecrafts have visited Venus: Mariner 2, Mariner 5, Mariner 10, Pioneer Venus 1, Pioneer Venus 2, and the Magellan Orbiter. On December 14, 1962, NASA's Mariner 2 successfully sailed by and examined the cloud-covered planet Venus, making it the first planet to be explored by a spacecraft. Since then, other spacecraft from the United States and other countries have studied Venus, notably NASA's Magellan, which used radar to survey the planet's surface. The most successful landings on the surface of Venus to yet were accomplished by Soviet spacecraft, but they didn't last long due to the tremendous heat and crashing pressure. After impacting the surface of Venus in 1978, an American probe, one of NASA's Pioneer Venus multi-probes, survived for roughly an hour. The last planet that we are going to see is the biggest planet in the solar system, the planet Jupiter. We will conduct and perform the same procedure in order for us to view the planet Jupiter. So let us focus at the screen and enjoy the live image of the planet Jupiter. Jupiter is our solar system's largest planet. It is more than twice as massive as all the other planets combined. It is the fifth most distant from the Sun at an average distance of 5.2 astronomical unit. Its closest approach is at 4.9 astronomical unit and at its farthest 5.4 astronomical unit. With a mean radius of 43,440 miles or 69,911 kilometers, a diameter of around 88,846 miles or 142,984 kilometers at the equator, and just 83,082 miles or 133,708 kilometers in the poles. It is the largest planet in the solar system. Jupiter is named after the king of the Roman gods in mythology, the equivalent of the Greek god Zeus. Jupiter was known to the ancient Greeks as Phaeton, which means blazing star, and was the Roman pantheon's supreme god of thunder, lightning, and storms, as well as the god of light and sky. It is a gas giant made mostly of hydrogen and helium. It resembles a star, but it never grew large enough to begin burning. Jupiter would become a protostar if it were 12.5 times more massive, and our solar system would become a double star. The gas giant would need to amass 80 times more mass to become a true star. Swirling cloud stripes adorn the surface. The iconic stripes and swirls of Jupiter are actually frigid, windy clouds of ammonia and water floating in a hydrogen and helium-rich atmosphere. It has the strongest magnetic field in the solar system, except that of the Sun. It also contains a liquid hydrogen ocean that provides practically all of the power for this massive planet. The liquid inside the planet draws everything in its vicinity and forms a powerful magnetic field due to the rapid speed with which it rotates, and because of this, Jupiter is known as the vacuum cleaner of the solar system. Comets and asteroids streaming from the outer solar system to the inner solar system are attracted by gas giant's tremendous gravity. Jupiter is known as the shield of the Earth because it truly protects us. Jupiter is the fastest spinning planet in the solar system. It takes 10 hours for Jupiter to complete one rotation around the Sun. This means that on Jupiter, a day is just 10 hours long, compared to 24 hours on Earth. Thus 1 year Jupiter year is the same as 11 Earth years. It has large storms, such as the Great Red Spot, almost twice the size of Earth, which has lasted hundreds of years. It has stable atmospheric vortex on this gas giant and is the solar system's largest cyclone. Storms and hurricanes are common here, and they are larger than any continent on the planet. However, unlike the centuries-old Great Red Spot, they usually only survive a few days. Jupiter's atmosphere is also home to lightning. At the same time on our globe, there is a pattern. The closer you get to the equator, the more lightning you get. And lightning is extremely rare at the poles. On Jupiter, though, the situation is quite the opposite. Jupiter is a gas giant with no solid surface, but it is thought to have a solid inner core the size of Earth. Jupiter is the most powerful radio emitter in the sky. Its radio waves are picked up on Earth, but they are typically below hearing levels. Jupiter is impossible to approach for any spacecraft. This planet's radiation belt can quickly damage delicate electrical equipment. Jupiter possesses the solar system's largest ocean, which is made out of liquid hydrogen rather than water. Polar lights can be seen on Jupiter. However, on our planet, the aurora is only visible during periods of strong solar activity, whereas on the gas giant, the aurora is always there. Jupiter has rings as well, but they're too faint to view clearly. Jupiter's ring system is rather thin. The ring system begins 92,000 kilometers above Jupiter's cloud tops and extends more than 225,000 kilometers away from the planet. They range in thickness from 2,000 to 12,500 kilometers. They are named halo, a thick inner ring, main, a wide and flat ring, and gossamer rings, a pair of faint outer rings. Jupiter has 79 confirmed moons, and being the fifth planet from the Sun, Mars and Saturn are its neighboring planets. Ganymede, Jupiter's biggest moon, is the largest in the solar system. The Jovian satellites are Jupiter's moons, the largest of which are Ganymede, Callisto, Io, and Europa. Ganymede is 5,268 kilometers across, making it larger than Mercury. These satellites are particularly well known, Io for its volcanic activity. Ganymede for its size is the largest known moon of any planet. Europa for hosting favorable conditions for finding current-day environments suitable for some form of life beyond Earth, and Callisto for possibly hosting a subsurface ocean. Galileo Galilei identified 4 of Jupiter's moons in the year 1610. The Galilean satellites are Jupiter's biggest moons and are known as the largest of all the planet's moons. Despite the fact that Galileo Galilei discovered Jupiter's largest satellites, they were named by German astronomer Simon Marcus, who lived at the same time. Marcus may have spotted the satellite 6 months or a year before Galileo, but he was slow to disclose his findings. Io, Callisto, Europa, and Ganymede have huge water reserves. Just like Venus and Mars, Jupiter has been known since ancient times before it can be seen without advanced telescopes. It has been visited or passed by several spacecraft, orbiters, and probes, such as Pioneer 10 and 11, Voyager 1 and 2, Cassini, New Horizons, and Juno. Future missions may focus on subterranean waters of the Jovian moons Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. In some layers of Jupiter's atmosphere, the possibility of life exists. Some microbes or perhaps beings may have evolved to live in a continual state of flight. Now let us move to the last object, which is the waning crescent moon. The moon is Earth's only natural satellite. At about 1/4 the diameter of Earth, it is the fifth largest satellite in the solar system. The moon is a planetary mass object that formed a differentiated rocky body, making it a satellite planet under the geophysical definitions. It lacks any significant atmosphere, hydrosphere, or magnetic field. Its surface gravity is about 1/6 of Earth's. Orbiting Earth at an average distance of 384,400 kilometers, or about 30 times Earth's diameter. Its gravitational influence very slowly lengthens Earth's day and is the main driver of Earth's tides. The moon's orbit around Earth has a sidereal period of 27.3 days. During each synodic period of 29.5 days, the amount of visible surface illuminated by the sun varies from none up to 100%, resulting in lunar phases that form the basis for the months of a lunar calendar. The moon is tidally locked to Earth, which means that the length of a full rotation of the moon on its own axis causes its same side to always face Earth. Sometimes it is called geosynchronous motion. The usual English proper name for Earth's natural satellite is simply the moon. In scientific writing, the name Luna is used especially in science fiction to distinguish the Earth's moon from the others, while in poetry, Luna has been used to denote personification of the moon. Cynthia is another poetic name, though rare, for the moon personified as a goddess. And lastly, sometimes they called it Selene, as the moon is the study of selenology, and it is the Greek goddess of the moon. Where did the moon came from? There were four theories behind the formation of the moon. First, the fission theory states that the moon broke from a rapidly spinning proto-Earth. If this happened after the Earth differentiated, it would explain why the moon is less dense than Earth. In fact, the moon has a very low iron content, and this fits in perfectly with this theory. What killed this theory was analysis of the lunar rocks. They differ chemically from the crustal rocks of Earth. Second, the condensation theory, which suggested that the Earth and Moon condense from the same cloud of material. This theory died quickly because the Earth and Moon have quite different densities and compositions. The Moon is poor in volatile materials such as water, which is abundant on the Earth. Third one is the capture theory. Suggests that the moon formed elsewhere and was later captured by the Earth. This would explain the different densities and compositions, but leads to some tough questions with no satisfactory answers. There would have to be a complex set of circumstances for Earth to be able to capture a body as large as the moon. It is also believed that it would take such strong gravitational forces by the Earth to capture the moon, that it would likely tear the moon apart. The last but not the least is the giant impact theory. The moon was made when a rock smashed into Earth. This is the most widely accepted explanation for the origin of the moon involves a collision of two protoplanetary bodies during the early accretion period of solar system evolution. If a very large body struck the Earth, a huge amount of eject materials would be thrown up and into orbit around the Earth. It is possible the moon could have formed from this debris. This material would be a combination of debris from both Earth and the impacting body. The giant impact theory is the current favored scientific hypothesis for the formation of the moon. How big is the moon compared to Earth? If the Earth is hollow, it would require 50 moons to fit in the Earth, and it would take 81 and one-half moons to equal the amount of matter in the Earth. The moon's phase that you see today is the waning crescent moon. It occurs just after the third quarter and before the new moon. At this stage, the moon age is about 25.7 days old, or another 3 more days before new moon. It is illuminated at 15.8%, and the current magnitude is negative 9.11. The explanation behind the waning crescent moon is that when the moon's illumination drops from 49.9% to 0.1%, it is said to be in the waning crescent phase. It occurs halfway between the third quarter and the new moon. The term crescent refers to the shape of the object. The moon resembles a boat or a banana during this phase. Waning indicates that the moon is shrinking or waning, refers to the moon's sunlit portion gradually diminishing after the full moon. The waning process continues until the emergence of a new moon. It has two phases: the waning gibbous, when the illumination is reduced to 50%, and the waning crescent, in which the illumination drops just to 2%. You probably may ask, what is the difference between waxing or waning phases of the moon? At this very moment, the moon is a waning crescent. Sure, it's not as mysterious as a new moon or inspiring as a full moon. But that doesn't mean you should dismiss the waning moon as a spiritual rebuilding process, and the same goes for the waxing moon. For those who aren't familiar with the lunar cycle, the new moon and the full moon are opposite points in this cycle. Between these 2 points, the moon must wax and then wane. This cycle repeats itself about every month. It's not very hard to distinguish the waning moon from the waxing moon. It doesn't matter where you live on Earth. If you look after the moon at sunset and you can see it, it means the moon is waxing. In its waning phase, the moon isn't visible at sunset. It rises later in the night until it reaches the waning crescent phase. The latest news about the moon's exploration. Last 28 February 2018, the SpaceX, Vodafone, Nokia, and Audi announced a collaboration to install a 4G wireless communication network on the moon, with the aim of streaming live footage on the surface to Earth. But in September 2020, a group of 15 researchers is developing a 5G communication intended for the moon, and it recently launched the 5G Space Communications Lab, an interdisciplinary joint experimentation project to simulate 5G-based communications in space and on the moon. After the Apollo program, the Artemis program follows. It is a human spaceflight program that is being led by NASA with multiple international and U.S. domestic partners. The primary goal of Artemis is to return humans to the moon, specifically the lunar South Pole, by 2025. If successful, it will include the first crewed lunar landing mission since Apollo 17 in 1972, which was the final lunar flight of the Apollo program. The Artemis program began in December 2017 as part of successive efforts to revitalize the U.S. space program. NASA's stated short-term goal for the program is to include landing the first female astronaut on the moon. Midterm objectives include establishing an international expedition team and a sustainable human presence on the moon. Long-term objectives for Artemis are laying the foundations for the extraction of lunar resources and eventually making crewed missions to Mars and beyond. And this ends our virtual telescope viewing in celebration of the Global Astronomy Month 2022. Thank you for listening, and we hope you have learned a lot from this activity. Also, don't forget to join us in this coming 29 for the virtual Planetary Show. This has been Alan Julius Alcaraz, Weather Specialist 2 of the Space Science and Astronomy section of Pagasa. Clear skies and good day to everyone.